Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the morning tip-off with Imman. Today we're going to be talking about Kyle Lowry, we're going to be talking about Shaq, we're going to be talking about the games that happened. But before that, I've got some basketball news family with me, some Dishes and Dimes family. Yasmin, what's up? I was about to say in the building, but you're not in the building because that would be weird. It's 8 o'clock in the morning, and we're following COVID protocols. Yasmin, hello, how are you?
I'm well. Good morning. Good morning.
And Yasmin, I'm sure all of you guys know, you can find her everywhere. Check out the Neon Playbook. Check out Yahoo Sports Canada. Check out basketball news. And yeah, anything else we could plug? Anything else you would like to plug right now? Oh, cut out audio. Lost your audio there.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, yep, I can hear you now.
Okay. Yeah, no, I was just saying Raptors group chat on Fridays, Tuesdays. Imman's going to be there. Tons. Katie hosts on Tuesdays. I host on Fridays. So if you want to check out some thoughts from local Toronto fans on, the NBA in total, yeah, check out the show.
Yeah, definitely. All right. So just wanted to start off with some news, you guys. I'm just going to let you can vote for Kyle Lowry starting from noon today. All right. I'll start voting. I'm going to be voting for Kyle Lowry. I'm going to be voting for Yao Ming because it's just it's a tradition of mine at this point. And yeah, I'll start voting. Who's been the all-star of the Raptors for you this season?
Kyle, I think, has been like the one who's reached all-star heights most consistently this season. Pascal's probably not going to get it. Definitely not going to get it. My issue is with I don't like the guard talent, like the depth in the East has just kind of skyrocketed over the course of the offseason, which makes me like.
I wonder if the Kyrie stuff just kind of took him out of consideration.
Sorry,
I think the Kyrie stuff can take him out of consideration. I thought initially that Harden being traded to the East just by demanding a trade, that might rub coaches the wrong way. But I just think like Harden's play, and we can get into it. I don't know. I think he's just going to be a shoe-in.
Yeah.
I don't see it anyway. It's not like, because I thought it would be like a very much a Jimmy Butler effect, where when Jimmy was traded or forced his way from Minnesota over to Philly, sorry about that. When Jimmy forced his way from Minnesota over to Philly, he didn't make the All-Star team. And a large part of that was he rubbed a lot of people the wrong way in doing what he did and was painted as his villain. And I thought the same thing would happen for Harden, but it hasn't.
No. I think most people saw his demanding out of the Houston Rockets like as inevitable. So I feel like it's a little different, and he doesn't have the drama. The thing is, he did have the drama of issues in practice, but I feel like Jimmy's was so like scandalous.
It was, but like the comments from DeMarcus, I think also just like being at a club the night before and like, he came in but like that entire saga to start the year. And I think part of it for James is that it ended so quickly. They traded him so soon. It didn't linger. I think if we had heard that storyline continue for an extra week or so, heading into this week where voting is now beginning, I think coaches, when it was time for them to pick, he wouldn't have. I guess it's different because like when fans vote for you, they're not voting for you on the West Coast because Houston Rockets fans, they're probably not going to be voting for you. And then how do you make it on the East? So yeah, so I think that's part of it, is that he was traded so early that it shifted the narrative a little bit.
Yeah. And I think there's like a star quality of like the Houston Big Three that everyone secretly wanted. So I think to see it happen, it's kind of just like an experiment everyone wants to see succeed, or at least like look good on the court. But what's funny is, so you have James Harden. The Nets backcourt is probably going to get the fan vote for the guard spots.
You think so? I think Jason Tatum is going to take one of those.
Well, he's a forward. So
sorry.
Yeah, so it's gonna be like the forward spots will be like KD and Tatum, probably starting forward spots. Sabonis has been awesome. Bam has been awesome. So
there's no other guard.
Drew Holiday.
I think he's gonna get the fan.
I think the Bucks winning is gonna get a lot of, and coaches love him, just like with Lowry.
He gets the coach vote.
Yeah,
I don't think he's gonna get the fan vote. I'm trying to think. There's no other guard that's going to beat Kyrie out, because I just thought Kyrie's probably not getting the fan vote.
Trey Young
Trey Young get it.
Trae Young's in one,
He got it last
and
year. He's gonna get
Kemba was the starter, I think, along with Trae Young last season. But he hasn't been very good this season, and he's been out a lot with the injury. Yeah, so that's probably not going to happen. But we'll see how it pans out. This is all like narrative based. I feel like someone going on a hot streak to enter into February can change a lot of things right now.
Great guys, who cares? Yeah. Sandy's saying he doesn't think Lowry's going to be an all-star. I don't think he's going to be an all-star if the Raptors are below 500. But I think if the Raptors manage to pull themselves back,
if they go on a win streak or something.
Go on a win streak. I think coaches always like voting for the vets. Kyle's just kind of that guy. It was very much in Kyle's first year that he should have made it in 2014. He didn't because coaches gave the vote to a vet in what's his name, Joe Johnson, because that's what they do. And I think Kyle's going to get some of those in the back end of his career.
Yeah, he deserves it.
Let's get into some of the games that happened yesterday. Let's start with Lakers-Sixers. So Lakers-Sixers is interesting because it was like the battle of these two juggernauts, and both of them had these undefeated records that were coming into play, where the Lakers were undefeated on the road, the Sixers were undefeated when their starting lineup played. And I'm going to be honest, I kind of checked the score, and it was like 4 minutes ago. I was like, okay, it's going to be close. But like the Sixers are up 14, and every time that I kind of checked in on the game, it felt like Sixers had kind of controlled a little bit of the game. And then, of course, the Lakers go on a run, but Tobias Harris steals it.
Naturally.
He's had kind of a resurgence this year, you could say. Like he's been awesome. Good. And is that what do you think that is? Is that just Doc and him? Is that what Tobias has needed this entire time? Was just a reunion with Doc Rivers?
Yeah, I think we know what Tobias is capable of. Like he's like this big, versatile scorer. He's supposed to be like this 3-level scorer. Whatever he doesn't give you on defense, he'll give you on offense. And I think maybe Doc being there is just another added comfort for him. Maybe he's more comfortable because scoring is so rhythm based, it's so comfort based. So I think that was the issue. And I think with time, he's kind of carved out a spot for himself on this team. They got better spacing. I think for him and like Al Horford to operate at the forward spots was just too tough before.
Yeah. I think it's probably more so Al Horford leaving than a new coach coming in.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's credit things to Doc because that's fun. Weird note of this game. I know AD had a shot to win it there, but he shot 5 for 10 from deep. From the free throw line, which is, just a weird note from that game.
And I feel like Giannis didn't miss the other night, so they probably like just some sort of body snatchers situation.
You know what? Yeah, that's definitely what happened there. All right, so we'll talk a little bit about that Bucks game, but I want to get into Nets Hawks because that's always like a fun one when that happens because offense is fun.
It is.
Offense is a lot of fun. And what I liked from this game is that you kind of saw the James Harden that you've been wanting to see. It was a more aggressive James Harden. He finished with 31 points, 8 boards, and 15 assists. He got to the line 8 times. He shot 20 times, which is, what people have really been calling for. So a more aggressive James Harden. And just what do you do when, because the what's the team called? The Hawks? The Hawks played well, but like, what do you do when James Harden drops 31 and Kevin Durant drops 32 and Kyrie drops 26?
You just have to I feel like in order to compete against the Nets, you have to string together not even a crazy amount of stops, just a decent amount of stops and counteract their scoring because they're probably not going to be able to hold you off. So I feel like that would be a way to kind of level the playing field against them. And what's interesting about the Nets is that you can't have 3. Can you hear me?
Yeah. No, I said play defense.
Yeah, you can't have 3 top scorers. You can't have 3 scoring champions on the team. One of them is going to have to take a more secondary distribution role. And the last few games, it's been hard, and he's been lowering his scoring, upping the assists. But I don't know if it's supposed to be him. It's supposed to be the point guard. With Kyrie, but we know that
I think that is Harden's natural fit, and I think Kyrie is shooting guard. So exactly. But also at the same time, to your point, Harden is better. He's just a better scorer. You want him taking more of the points, but I think what we saw yesterday was the two of them combined for 22 assists.
Yeah, that's what they need. Yeah,
that's exactly what you need. Harden took more shots, had more assists. He took more shots than Kyrie, which is what you want to see when you're looking at the box score there. You want to see him being more aggressive because he's a better scorer. But at the same time, I think his natural fit is to be the guard, is to be the point guard, and for Kyrie to be the shooting guard because that's what they're sort of naturally more inclined to do, I think, there.
Yeah, and it'll be really interesting to see if Harden does that, because like it will tell us a lot about the last year. Was he scoring a lot because he had to, or was he scoring a lot because that's a style in which he prefers to play? Like, well, we're gonna find that out this season.
Yeah, definitely. And a weird note of this game, Joe Harris didn't make a three, which is the first time he's done that in 79 games.
That is shocking. He's been great.
Games. All right, so you know what? We're gonna pass over Celtics Spurs. Congratulations to DeMar DeRozan for beating the Celtics like you always do.
Did you see the last play? The clip of the last play?
Yeah. I saw that's literally what I caught, and I'm just like, you know what? I'll talk about it, but like, who cares? You know what? We can mock the Celtics another day. With the Pelicans is a team that I want to mock right now, because the Pelicans are not a good 3-point shooting team. They're fourth worst in the league, unless they're playing the Toronto Raptors, where Eric, like,
they beat us twice. Like, they beat the Raptors twice.
They beat the Raptors twice, and they shot insane from deep. Like, it was just like, it was great 3-point shooting. Like, we saw
Bledsoe, like,
how? Why is that a thing? Also, Bledsoe and Middleton both hitting buzzer beater threes against the Raptors to close a quarter. Both of them did it to close the half. Bledsoe did it twice in one game. Middleton, step your game up. You only did it one time.
Nick Nurse spoke about this. He's like, I feel like we're just at.
You cut out there.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, he was just saying, like, it looks like a lot of bad luck at times for the team. And I feel like the last season they had such good luck. I feel like everything went their way to close out games. Like, everything was just going perfect. And it's like they have like 2 seasons of pent up bad karma from like the championship season and like the most fun season in franchise history last year. And then now it's like coming back to bite them in the ass.
That's exactly what it feels like. And it feels like a lot of it. To me, it's like also looking at the regular seasons in years past. Yes, you can say LeBron, all of that stuff, but like 2018 regular season was also a lot of really good luck. It was like that was the winningest season in franchise history, still not by winning percentage. Actually, I think last season beat that by a game, but shortened season. So we're gonna throw that out the window. We'll say 2018 winningest season in Raptors history, and that was a lot of good luck. So it's really just been 3 years of great luck. And you know what? Sometimes it comes back to bite you in the butt. And Kyle had some good comments yesterday. We'll get into that in a little bit.
Oh, I didn't hear them. I want to hear them.
Okay, yeah. So Wizards Pelicans. Why I want to bring this up is because we need to save Bradley Beal. Can we like devise a plan between the two of us to rescue this man who, guys, 47 points in a loss to the Pelicans. The Pelicans, who are nobody should be losing to the Pelicans unless you're the Toronto Raptors. And
that's our thing.
Here's the kicker, though. The kicker is that the Wizards only finished with 106 points. Bradley Beal had nearly 50% of his team's points. And granted, Russell Westbrook didn't play in this game. He doesn't play on back-to-backs. So this is the second night of back-to-back, so he wasn't playing on one. But, like, come on, bro. 47 points and your team just puts up 106. Can we save him? Because that's nonsense.
My favorite thing is when people were posting, like, that SpongeBob meme where SpongeBob is, like doing security and the wanted poster is himself behind him. And then people were like, how do we feel bad for Beal when, you know, he signed that extension? Like, he did what he wanted to do. He wanted to be a Wizard. But at the same time, we feel so terribly for him. It's like, we know better. We know better. We know what's best for your well-being.
Get your bag. I'm always pro players getting their bag. And then you know what? Demand a trade. Okay.
Yeah.
But screw him. Get your bag and demand a trade. He did not sign up to be on this team. He did not sign up to be on this team that needs him to. He needs to put up 100 in order for them to win, basically, because if 50 is not going to cut it, what is? And so, you know what? Save Bradley Beal. He got his bag, and now it's time to rescue.
Enough of that.
But that's so crazy. But Zion finished with 32 points, and Brandon Ingram finished with 32 points. That's that's a fantastic game from those two young guys. That's exactly what you want. And yesterday, I had clips on, and he brought up the stat that remember how in Zion's first game, as a rookie, he dropped 4 threes.
Oh, I remember that. I watched it live.
Since then, he's only made 2 3-pointers.
That is
and
hilarious.
Once again, it continues. He got 32 and 0 for 1 from deep. So I just thought that was insane. I thought that was an interesting stat, so I looked for that today. And you know what? It's continued.
No, that makes sense. I still don't know how to feel about Zion, but he's so young, second year.
Yeah.
We'll see how it pans out.
It's the
And
second
yeah,
year. It's so weird. It's hard to like because his first year was obviously strange. He missed so much of it, came back, and then the bubble happened. So like there's so much weirdness that you can't really take anything out of it. And then
yeah,
this year, new coach, no real training camp, no real preseason, no real vibe of getting things together. And it's just like I don't know. Like I feel like we need a little bit more time. I feel like he's kind of gotten the shit end of the stick because
yeah.
his entire playing career in the NBA has been some weird COVID.
This is random, but imagine like how the shooting numbers will be impacted when arenas are packed again. Like I wonder if there's gonna be like these guys haven't played in front of crowds for like it'll be like probably 2 years at that point or 2 years plus. So I wonder if it's gonna affect like field goal percentages and stuff.
Yeah, it'll be really interesting.
They're all distracted.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of see it in some arenas. Like there is some bickering. Like we saw LeBron James the other night, just like hear it from a heckler, someone who I guess he probably knows or knows people who knows.
Yeah, it was like front office people at Cleveland.
It was people he knows. I'm gonna call them a heckler, and went off and decided to destroy the Cavs, which is fun. You know what? I love it, LeBron. Destroy the Cavs every chance you get because you on the Cavs destroyed my heart way too many times. All right. So we're going to get into our little coffee break section where, we just kind of take a break from the NBA and switch over to asking you about you. And honestly, when I've had dishes people on, I kind of just like ask, do you remember how you joined dishes? Like that's kind of my question because I don't remember entirely how I joined dishes. And so I've been asking people to just like repiece my own memory of how
I remember pretty clearly, but the thing is, when I joined, it hasn't launched yet, but it was already assembled. And I remember clearly because I was added to a group with a bunch of other women, and I left the group quickly because like I don't like groups, especially random ones. And there was a lot of people in this one, so I just left it. And then I think Sandy was talking about it on the timeline, and then I'm like, oh, is that what the group was? Put me back in that. Like I'm about it.
I remember this because I remember being like, oh no, Yasmin doesn't want to be a part of dishes. Like I remember being like, and then you came back and I was like, okay, I remember that.
Yeah. No, I thought it was just a regular group where people just talk and stuff. So I just left it. I'm like, nah, I'm in too many already. And then I found out what it was
popular
for.
Enough, guys.
I'm gonna need you to put me back in now.
Yeah, okay, no, I definitely remember that because I feel like it was a stretch, like maybe a couple of weeks, and then you came back because I remember being like, should someone reach out to her? Yeah. Are we sure that she doesn't want to be a part of it?
Yeah, it was a short span. It wasn't that long.
No, okay, my memories.
No. I mean, it was like only a couple of weeks. It wasn't.
Yeah, it was a couple of weeks.
Yeah,
because for dishes, we got together in probably November, and then we ended up launching the podcast in January, towards like the end of January. And I mean, our anniversary show was like a week ago. So, so there was like a significant period of just like build up and trying to get things to work and figuring things out. And Katie and myself were talking to Yahoo at the time. It was just like a bunch of things of like trying to make stuff work and figuring out how all of this would play out. And here we are.
Yeah.
All right. So we're going to transition back over to basketball because you wrote some articles recently for Basketball News that I wanted to talk about. One of them near and dear to my heart is, Kyle Lowry. That's why this episode is titled Kyle Lowry Over Everything.
always.
It's always Kyle Lowry over everything.
You reminded us last night.
He certainly did.
Yeah.
All right, so I'll throw it to you. I'm gonna put you on solo cam. All right, so I just pulled up your article over here. A couple of things I want to talk about. So one, your article does mention, and I think so. Your article does mention the 13-0 record without Kyle Lowry, and so I wanted to get into that. What do you think that is? Like, what do you think the noise in some of that is? You kind of touched on it a little bit in your article. Or do you think it's noise? I guess the better question is, do you think that there's noise in those numbers, or do you think it is kind of legit that they're just good without Kyle?
I don't know for sure. That's the thing about the piece. Like, I honestly, it could be nothing. But I remember watching one of the broadcasts. I think it was like just the last game or something, the one that he missed most recently. It might have been versus Miami. I'm not sure. But it was during the broadcast where they noted that they have an ongoing 13-game win streak, sans Kyle Lowry. And I feel like 13-0 is significant enough to just, kind of humor, like to find out why. Because oftentimes when the Raptors were, going into their post Kawhi season, people will point to their 17-5 record without him as proof that they can cobble together wins, without this guy. They can still be like a winning team. It doesn't mean that they're like, obviously people like Kawhi, people like Kyle Lowry are ceiling raisers, period. But the team can still be, can still build, can still be a winning organization, despite that. So in spite of that. So that's what I kind of discussed. I can't, when I was trying to like do the research and I was on basketball references and everything, I found out some pretty interesting things.
Yeah.
For example, this is like I think last season, 2019-2020 season was the only season since 2014-2015 where the offense was virtually unchanged versus when he was on the court versus when he sat. If anything, it was slightly better, like 1 point better or something, which is obviously not indicative of Kyle Lowry. We already know how excellent he is. But I think the suggestion I was thinking about it the other night, was that perhaps he's not the scrappy floor raiser that he was for this organization for so many years. Maybe he's just a championship caliber ceiling raiser who needs to be on a team where he's surrounded by players, I guess, with the same goals as him, like older veterans who are trying to win a championship versus a younger team. Because if you think about it, he's gone through like kind of a few identity changes on the Raptors. He went from that disgruntled role player, he became that all-star scrappy floor raiser, and then he became like the championship caliber ceiling raiser within the last several years. So that's just the kind of thing I was exploring. Like, what is this team kind of outgrowing Kyle Lowry? Because I think that in order for him to stay on this team, if that is the goal, they'd have to make a lot of changes in order to maximize him. And if not, they'd have to trade him while they can and get something in return.
Yeah, and I like the article. Everyone, please check it out. So I thought a lot about it too, just after reading it, and I was looking into the numbers. I think where I'm at with it, and we see it with not just when Kyle sits, because if we look at last season as a whole, it wasn't just when Kyle sat that they continued to win. It was very much a team that when, like we saw, Fred VanVleet had significant timeout, Pascal Siakam, Marc Gasol, Kyle Lowry, Serge Ibaka, everyone, Norman Powell, everyone who was a significant part of the rotation minus OG Anunoby had significant timeout, and the Raptors continue to win and perform without them. And I think part of that is that the Raptors' top 6 or 7 guys last season, top 7 guys, the starters plus Serge and Norm, are all high use, like all. I said Serge Ibaka and I said all high usage players. So let me shut up for a second, get my thoughts here. But they all perform better with bigger roles. So yes, they all perform better in higher usage minutes. It's what we see when Norman Powell starts, the Raptors win, and when he's on the bench, they lose. And we can talk and get into that. I think part of that is, we said it, he plays better when he's surrounded by people who are good playmakers, so he doesn't have to make up so much of the decisions. Better defender, so he can get out in transition. There are different things to take into that. But I think specifically with Kyle in last year's minutes, or why the team was so successful, is because there are guys who can step up in those times. And I don't think that that's an I struggle, because I think in part they can be successful without Kyle, but I don't think you can have any long-term success without Kyle. And in looking in those numbers, because I thought that was really interesting, and I wanted to do a deep dive on those numbers as well. And I found that, like, it wasn't so much that they were successful without Kyle as much as it was that they were successful with Marc Gasol. Because looking at the best two-man lineups last season that played at least 600 minutes, the top 5 all featured Marc Gasol. It was Marc Gasol and OG Anunoby for highest, Marc Gasol and Pascal Siakam for second, Marc Gasol and Norman Powell for third, Marc Gasol and Fred VanVleet for fourth, Kyle Lowry, Marc Gasol for fifth. So my question, to you is, like, is that more so the fact that Marc Gasol was on the team and that kind of allowed for this team to be successful with Kyle Lowry? And then the second question I have is, looking at some of the most minutes that Kyle plays last year in his worst lineups, where he had the lowest net rating or the offensive rating wasn't as great, was because it was Kyle plus bench. And it wasn't, and I think the bench has gotten, like the back end of the bench as the Raptors have continued to progress, because it was once upon a time.
The bench is starting now.
Yeah, the bench is all starting. So the bench has gotten worse. And Kyle, and we saw it yesterday, Kyle was in that second quarter, it was Kyle. It was just like this, and Kyle played a lot of that last season as well. He kind of is, I think the worst, I have it right here, the worst 4-man rotation last season with the lowest net rating was Kyle Lowry, Rondae Hollis-Jefferson, Chris Boucher, and no, that was the best. It was Kyle Lowry, Serge Ibaka, Rondae Hollis-Jefferson, and Terrence Davis. So that's once again Kyle plus bench, and they were abysmal, and they played 100 minutes. So these are the lineups that Kyle was forced to play in. And then the second one that played 167 minutes was Kyle Lowry, Serge Ibaka, Patrick McCaw, and Fred VanVleet. And then the fourth worst is also Kyle Lowry, who's I think it's Rondae, Norm, and Terrence. So it's like it's these lineups that all play significant minutes, over 100, and it's Kyle being forced to, I think, raise the floor.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I'm not sure if him at age 34 going on 35, I don't think that's his role, or a role in which he...
I guess my question is it that it's not his role, or is it that he's being asked to carry worse and worse lineups?
I don't know. I think it's hard to say. My thing is that, as it stands, like, I don't know if you noticed, but like, when I see them playing with Kyle, I notice that there's something just off about the distribution of the ball. I don't know if it's because both he and Fred are best on ball, or prefer on ball, but they both excel off ball. Like, I just feel like the Raptors backcourt works. That's definitely for sure. But I'm not sure how I feel about it as like a viable backcourt, like going forward. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that there are legit questions to have. I
just find that Fred VanVleet prefers on-ball play. Even though he's excellent off-ball and should be utilized off-ball because he's fast, he's small, he can get through. You know, he's an excellent shooter. And Kyle is a very talented off-ball player as well. We saw it during the Kawhi season. But together, when they both want to play point guard, but it's obviously Kyle's best role. Fred is more of a shooting guard, and I feel like there's an issue there that translates. They're not 100% compatible. I feel like as a backcourt, even though it works and even though it has stretches in lineups where it is absolutely unstoppable. I just feel like there's a dynamic that I see on the court as it stands where things aren't flowing as seamlessly as they could have. I feel like Marc Gasol remedied, as you said, a lot of that issue last season. He was kind of like he was the connective tissue of the team. He united disjointed parts. But I find that right now, when they don't have that, it's manifesting itself as well. You know what I mean? So
I agree with that.
When Kyle's not on the court, I just notice a less complacency as well, because I feel like they put forth more effort to the next man up mentality, where they try to make up for any loss in scoring and whatnot. And I just noticed a different dynamic when he's not on the court. I literally don't know if this is based in anything. I don't know if this 13-0 win streak is reflective of anything substantial. But the thing is, like, I think it's worth looking at, because obviously as Kyle gets older, whether he stays on the team or not, there's going to be a future where he's not there. So I want to see how they deal with this. It's going to be really interesting. I want to know what you think. Like, if he's not, whether they trade him, whether he stays or whatever it is, if there's a Raptors team in the future where he's not on the backcourt and it's just for VanVleet, who do you think would be like, what kind of player archetype do you think would be like the perfect starting caliber point guard or shooting guard next to Fred VanVleet?
Kyle Lowry. Next to Fred VanVleet, I guess it would I'm gonna probably describe someone like Kyle, like you just said, someone who can play both on and off, someone who's I guess primary roles as a playmaker.
That's what I'm thinking.
I wouldn't be someone who
Idealistically, I think it would have to be like a big-bodied passer. You know, pass first sort of guy. He'd have to be taller because I feel like that sub
Okay,
6 foot backcourt.
that's true. That's true. In my head, I'm totally fine with the midget back. I'm totally fine with the smaller backcourt just because of, like, you know what? I love both of them. But yeah, no. And here's the thing: most smaller guys cannot defend larger players. What the Bucks were saying on their broadcast yesterday was like Chris Middleton has struggled against Kyle Lowry. That's something that they brought up in the first quarter, where they were like, he's had some bad games against Kyle, which you wouldn't expect because Chris Middleton is 7 inches taller than Kyle. And yeah, there's not a lot of guards in the league that you can pair alongside Fred VanVleet that can guard someone bigger than themselves. Fred is one of those. Kyle's one of those guys. So I think in my head, I just assume that other smaller point guards can do that, and that's just not the case. But
no, it's not.
It's not. It's not. And just reading the article, no, it made me sit and think. So I wanted to do that deep dive, and I was like, okay, I don't think the 13-0 record without Kyle really means anything because they were great when anyone slotted down. And part of that is that they have a really good 7-man rotation. And when any of those guys get higher usage, they perform because Norton Powell, we see it. When he's in the starting lineup, he looks good. Fred VanVleet with higher usage is great. Like, we want these guys. We saw it just the other day when OG Anunoby had his phenomenal game, right? When these guys are being asked to step up, they kind of step into that role. Yeah,
it's gonna be super interesting to see how because this core is pretty young. They're all like just entering their prime, or they're even younger than that. It's gonna be interesting to see how their usage shakes out into their respective roles. You know what I mean? Because right now, I think that Pascal's usage is too high. I think he'll be best to lower it a bit. I think Fred should be slightly higher because he's such a talented scorer. Not higher than Pascal, but higher than what it is already. I think that I don't know what OG's usage should go up a little bit. So it would be interesting to see how their usage shakes out.
The highest usage on the team. I'm kidding. But yeah, and so just looking at those numbers, I think that there's a lot of noise in it just because I thought that they were good last season. And I think the offense, for the first time, not being as good with not being much better with when Kyle is on the court than when he's off, kind of staying relatively the same, I think has a lot to do with Marc Gasol. I just like when I went to like NBA.com and was looking it up, I'm like, I guarantee that the best 2-man lineups that I'm going to see are going to feature Marc Gasol. I thought he would be like a part of like 3 of the top 5, or like maybe I thought the top 5 2-man lineups would maybe contain 3 or 4 of Marc Gasol's. It was all 5 of his, and I was like, okay, yeah, that's what it is.
I should cross match, like, because Mark missed like 30 games, so I should find out which ones he missed and if they won anything out of.
Yeah, I was like, okay, we need a lot. Like, I want some substantial amount of time here, and it was all Marc Gasol, and I think that plays a lot into why we're seeing that sort of difference in the offense, because this season, to start the year, prior to the road trip, where I think Kyle had some poor games in that road trip, and then obviously he went down with the injury, and you know it's still a shortened season, so it's hard to look into these numbers. But prior to that, for the first 7-8 games of the season, the offense absolutely plummeted when he sat. And so
it was drastic.
It was massive drop off when Kyle sat, and it was very clear that I think he's still a floor raiser. So to the article, I think the one thing is he's still a floor raiser, and I think maybe the numbers not bearing that out has to do with the Raptors' back end. End of the bench guys not being as talented. There's only so much you can do when you're playing alongside third string guys when Kyle's always been, I mean, that's part of why Nick Nurse kind of trots out these Kyle plus bench lineups, is because the only way that they don't bleed out entirely is because they're playing out there with Kyle. We saw that yesterday against the Bucks, which is one of the best teams in the league right now. And Kyle, what did he do? He took like 2 charges in that stretch and I think had a 3. Like, he sustain them in that time long enough for the starters to come back in. So I do think he's still a ceiling raiser. I think there's probably some noise in that number just because, I mean, like, there's only so much you can do when you're playing with some of the guys that it was Patrick McCaw, Terrence Davis, and like,
we'll see. It's definitely something worth monitoring this season, like a fun side mission.
All right, that was a lot of fun. I wanted to get into some of the Shaq stuff, but we talked about Kyle for so long. That's why I named it Kyle Lowry over everything, because I just figured I would talk about Kyle for the entire time, which is exactly what happened. I do not mind. Thank you so much for joining us. Me and all of my friends here. Thank you so much, and everyone, go check out her piece, and also check out the article on TNT as well, because I thought it was really well done. Because I was asking myself that question. It's like, what's that part in that Kanye song where it's like, what does that even mean? No one knows what it means, but it's provocative.
So he gets the people going.
Like, that's very much what's happening right now. Where like, when Shaq speaks, it's like, what are you even saying? Nobody knows what he's saying. And he came out with a quote being like, the only people who can do what I've done is, you know, LeBron and Curry, so I have a right to say what I say. Like, okay, yeah, Donovan Mitchell is not an MVP and, you know, a 4-time NBA champion, but like, what are we, like, he's young and he's playing really well.
Yeah, I think the best thing people can do in that situation is not get outraged. Like, don't yell at Shaq or be pissed off. Just literally just be unimpressed because it's unimpressive. You know what I mean?
And that's exactly both. Like, and you mentioned that. That's exactly kind of was what Donovan said, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And then Christian Wood was like casual. Like, that's exactly what we should be doing. Like, Brad, do your job. Like, know who I am. You cover the league. But like, all right.
Yeah. That is true.
All right. Thank you so much for joining.
All right. Have a good morning. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everybody.